A former congressional candidate in Louisiana, Gary Chambers, just launched Bigger Than Me. It's a new initiative aimed at building a progressive movement in the Deep South.
If we are going to change the trajectory for the people who live in these communities, we have to organize, strategize, and mobilize on the next level. So I want to take the energy from our campaign and turn that into a consistent, organized effort to create change in the Deep South.
So last month, Chambers and another progressive candidate, Karen Carter Peterson, they lost the race for Louisiana's 2nd district to Troy Carter. That was in an April 24th runoff election. But voter turnout for progressives was heavy, according to precinct results. Activist and founder of Bigger Than Me, Gary Chambers, joins me now to discuss. Great to meet you, Gary. Great to have you. So just tell us a little bit about your inspiration here. What are you up to?
Well, I think that it's critically important that the progressives in the Deep South get taken serious. We shook up the world in our race. They told us that we come in at 6%, and we took 21% of the vote, which meant that progressive values were important. And I believe with the right infrastructure, with the right tools in place and the organizing capacity to touch grassroots organizers around this state, that Louisiana could do what Georgia has done. And so we're going to work aggressively to do so. And we've launched this 501c4 Bigger Than Me in order to help us do that. And I'm so excited.
And so what is the plan? Tell us a little bit more about that and what you think has been lacking in the past.
Well, number one of the things we found out in our race was that the cavalry was not going to come and save us, right? And so the progressive movement, many of the national organizations did not help our candidacy. And so rather than get angry, we're going to get active. And we're going to help register thousands of people to vote in the state of Louisiana. We're going to fight for fair districts to be drawn when redistricting happens in our state next year. And we're going to be active with supporting and doing whatever we can to raise awareness on progressive issues, as well as help progressives get elected to Congress, as all the way down to the local level. So we want to be active with the change that we want to see happen in our community because it's possible.
One of the things I was curious about your perspective on Gary is obviously both in 2016 and 2020 in his presidential campaigns, Bernie Sanders did well in a lot of places across the country. He did well with young African-American voters. We did very poorly in the Deep South both times around. Why do you think that is?
Because ideology without relationship doesn't work in the Deep South. And to come down and touch the people, you've got to connect with the people that are leading the charge. To Joe Biden's credit, and I supported Bernie Sanders in 2016 and in 2020, but to Joe Biden's credit, the reason I was able to run for Congress is because he tapped Cedric Richmond, who was one of the Congress members in the Deep South, and got him bought onto his candidacy. He did the same thing with Jim Clyburn. And so in states like Louisiana, where we only have one black member of Congress, even though we're a state that's 34% black, the black member of Congress has a lot of sway over the voters of that state because they're the only member of Congress representing black folks in D.C. in states like Louisiana, which is a Democrat governor because of the black voter within this state. And so I think that Senator Sanders has some room to grow in that area. And I think the progressive movement in large has room to grow in that area. Louisiana ranks 50 in the nation. And so if progressives are serious about the change that they want to see, you need to come to Cancer Alley. You need to get involved in what's happening in the worst state in the country, 45 in healthcare, 48 in education, 50 in environmental quality, 50 in crime, and 50 in opportunity, right? And so those are big issues that need to be addressed from the federal level in order to help this state prosper and change.
Talk a little bit more about that, because I've read up a little bit on your district with regards to Cedric Richmond, Cancer Alley, the fact that there's massive environmental degradation, there's toxic chemicals that people think are linked to that high incidence of cancer in the region. People feel powerless to really change what's going on, and they feel like they're invisible, they feel like they're unheard. There's water quality issues, all of these things that you can find across America in poor communities. What do you think are the issues that people in your area really respond to? What do you think they're missing in terms of national representation? What do you think are areas where they already have progressive values but don't feel like progressives have been reaching out or speaking with them directly?
Well, number one, let's put this into perspective. Louisiana is ranked 50 in the nation in environmental quality and 50 in opportunity. We are married to the oil and gas industry, and we rank 50 in opportunity. So clearly, oil and gas is not going to grow the economy of the state, and tourism is not enough to sustain New Orleans. The pandemic has shown us that. So this congressional district goes from Baton Rouge, which is the capital city, to New Orleans, which is our second biggest city. And the resources that these communities lack, the people who live in the river parishes have to be burdened by plants that live in their community, polluting their atmosphere, and then not supplying jobs to the people who live in those communities. When you talk about places like Detroit, which used to be married to the auto industry, right? Detroit was a city that was of 3 million people, right? And they became a city of 700,000 when the auto industry bottomed out. Louisiana is a state of 4 million people. My concern is, because we're married to the oil and gas industry, when, not if, when the oil and gas industry bottoms out or transitions to something different, what happens to our state's economy? And so when I say I support the Green New Deal, it is because practically we know that the trajectory we're on is not going to sustain this economy for the next 30, 40 years. And I've got an 11-year-old daughter that I want to live out her wildest dreams in this state. But we've got to create an economy that works for the people. And so I'm excited about President Biden's infrastructure plan. I knew that he would bring something of that sort. And I hope that Louisiana gets a good chunk of those resources. The president will be in Louisiana today visiting Lake Charles and New Orleans. And so hopefully with the attention that the president can pay attention to us, and if we can get the progressive movement to take us serious now that they've seen that a progressive was in striking distance of knocking off a sitting state senator, that we will be able to make some real change happen down here in Louisiana.
Gary, congrats on the new organization. Where can people find out what you're up to?
You can go to biggerthanme.com. You can find me on social media at Gary Chambers Jr. We're trucking along. We're going all over the country over the next few weeks. I'll be in Philadelphia next Friday and Saturday, and so hopefully we get an opportunity to talk about some things.
Very exciting. Keep us posted. Great to have you, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you. Be well.
And we'll have more Rising for you after this.